I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. That's a song by The Temptations, which is what we're gonna talk about this week. And that's the song that Satan would have sang to Jesus. I know you want to leave me, but I refuse to let you go. Temptations are tough, and the season of Lent is really about dealing with our temptations. You know, Jesus got driven out into the desert by the Holy Spirit. Now, I don't know what he drove him out in. Maybe it was a Cadillac, you know, an SUV, it's a desert, you know, some off-road vehicle. But he drove him out there in order that he could be tempted. And the devil gives him 3 different temptations. You know, turn these stones into bread, throw yourself off the parapet of the temple, and, you know, the angels will catch you. And, you know, look at all these worlds, and if you worship me, good old Satan, then I'll give them to you. And Jesus has an answer to all of them. That's all well and good, because that's Jesus. But you and I, we face temptations all the time, and that's the whole point about sin. You know, we're tempted to sin many ways, many days. And it's like, well, what do we do about it? You know, and Lent is a time where we focus on that. How do I handle the temptation? In fact, if any of you have given up chocolate, you're going to find yourself craving chocolate like you never did before. You know, I love a good plate of pasta, and I can put marinara sauce on it. But you know what? On Fridays, I want a steak. Why is that? Because it's Lent, and there's temptation happening. But there are 3 things that surround temptations that we need to think about when we're trying to do battle with temptation. One is people. You'll find that there are some temptations that we deal with around people. You know, like for instance, if I know like a wife who wants to give up food, wants to lose some weight, but her husband loves to eat. And is really upset because the wife isn't eating the same food anymore, not preparing the same food, doesn't want to go out to dinner because she's so concerned about her weight. You might find the husband, you know, slipping a piece of chocolate cake across the table because he lost his eating partner. And he's upset, so he wants to have her fall in temptation. But people can do that to us all the time when we're trying to do the right thing. We can have friends, co-workers that, you know, they just kind of pull us towards doing the wrong thing. You know, I remember when I was teaching at Roman, the Purple School, that if I went into the teacher's lounge, I'd find lots of teachers talking about people and gossiping. It was a great place to go if you wanted to air out your bad feelings about a student or the principal or anybody else. But if I wanted to avoid the temptation to gossip, I didn't go anywhere near the teacher's lounge. But if I wanted to give in to the temptation, I went right into that room and got in there down and dirty with everybody else. And so we have to take a look at the people that surround our temptations. Second thing is places. There are places that we can go that lead us into temptation. Like if we go into, if you're a guy, and you go hang out with your girlfriend in her room by yourselves, well, you have a good chance of falling into a variety of sins. But you put yourself in the place of temptation. You know, we call that an occasion of sin, but it's a place. And you know, if you didn't want to commit any kind of sins, you wouldn't go anywhere near that particular area. But like if you were trying to stop drinking, like you're an alcoholic, well, you wouldn't go into your local bar. You know, you're not going to go to the bar and order a Coca-Cola. that doesn't make a lot of sense, because eventually you're going to be like, you know what, that beer looks pretty good, and you're going to order yourself a beer. So you should stay away from places and people that lead you into temptation. And the third one is things. There are things that we can do that lead us into temptation. You know, and I'm just going to simply say websites, social media. You know, there are things that we can be a part of that lead us into certain temptation. So if you're trying to avoid pornography, which is a big temptation for a lot of men, well, you should be very careful about the websites that you look at, and also the places where you look at them, because that can lead you into particular sins of the flesh, impurity, sins of abuse of yourself. But you got to avoid those things. Just for instance, that the computer is not a bad thing, but it can be used in a bad way if we are not careful about it, if we're not vigilant. So this week, as we think about the temptations that Jesus faced, which are different than our temptations, which are different than mine, which are different than yours, well, I got to take a look at the people, the places, and the things that surround my temptations if I truly want to be rid of them. Have a great first week of Lent.